You want to conduct research that will significantly transform conflict. As a practitioner, sometimes you have the time to develop your own research questions, while other times the questions are given to you. According to Aviard, in Chapter 3 of Doing a Literature Review in Health and Social Care, the overall aim for a research question is that, when answered, it should contribute to a better understanding of the practice area considered and ultimately improve client care. As an NCRP practitioner, the research question should contribute to a better understanding of conflicts and resolution processes. When you're developing a research question in negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building, you should consider the purpose for asking the question. Would other practitioners want to know the answer? Will the answers improve your skills as an NCRP practitioner? Is the question related to theory? Does it support current best practices in mediation or negotiation? You should develop questions that add value to the real-world practice of negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace building. Each research book seems to have their own rules or steps for creating a good research question. According to Aviard, you must be interested and motivated in the topic. The question should be focused but not too narrow. The question should be clear and unambiguous. The question should be answerable and realistic with your time frame. The question should address only one key question, and the question is answerable using the literature. One key point given by Aviard is you can reconsider and revise your question as you proceed through your research. You can be in the middle of a research, the lights come on that you are not answering your question, or the scope of your question is too broad or too narrow. You should constantly be referring back to your question throughout the research process. Research questions can follow a cycle. Throughout this cycle, the researcher needs to make sure the question is written clear enough to develop a satisfactory solution. When your research question contains keywords or searchable key terms, it will make it easier to do a literature search to see if others have answered the question before. You should also brainstorm possible answers to the question. In other words, form a hypothesis. Run a draft of your question by your peers to get their input about the clarity, focus, answerability, and relevancy of the question. Each textbook seems to have their own list of types of research questions. You can go with the basic historical or journalistic questions beginning with who, what, where, when, why, or how, or you can dig a deeper understanding of the purpose of your research. Some of the different types of research questions are hypothetical, prediction, solution, comparison, or judgment. And on this slide, I have placed the anatomy of a question from the perspective of a buzzword generator. I hope you put greater systematic thought into your research than using a research question buzzword generator. A research question is meaningful if many people are interested in finding an answer. This is a popularity issue. My dissertation question started as, What is the history of foreign-trained teachers recruited in the United States? My dissertation advisors gave me the feedback of, so what? Who cares? And who is interested in this other than you? We collaboratively worked on the revised question of what is the impact of foreign-trained teachers from the Philippines into urban California classrooms. My professors were interested in the answer to this question. The 57 teachers I had helped recruit from the Philippines were interested, and the school district administrators were interested in the differences in student assessment results between foreign and locally recruited teachers. The research question should be meaningful to yourself, your instructor, your peers, and anyone else that may want to see an answer. The Handbook of Conflict Resolution has several pages of questions that need to be answered about conflict. I have included many of the key words here. One way of measuring whether the question is meaningful is reviewing how much previous literature has been written about the same variables. Some articles even provide further research that needs to be conducted on a topic. You should ask yourself, will answering this question help myself or others be more effective negotiation, conflict resolution, and peace-building practitioners? You must consider whether you can answer the research question with your available time and resources. As a student in Los Angeles, it would be difficult to gather empirical evidence to answer a question like, is restorative justice an effective strategy to end the Korean War? Or, can mediation be used between millionaires and homeless people to equally distribute wealth in America? You need to ask questions about the conflicts, social problems, or inequalities that you have direct access to observing, mediating, or negotiating. Once again, you must have access to be able to answer your question with primary empirical data. Back to access. I have seen students want to interview attorneys, judges, executive officers, doctors, politicians, ambassadors, professional athletes, actors, and the list goes on. Make sure you have access to the research participants to answer the questions. If you are a police officer, you would likely have access to other police officers, so that would be appropriate participants in your study. Just make sure you can answer the questions through observations, interviews, and surveys within the time limits of this course. I have found some suggestions on the How to Research text on what to do if you're stuck in the process of developing research questions. This can include talking to your supervisor, looking at other examples of recent research project carried out in the subject area, and looking at the research literature for your subject area. You could also brainstorm ideas in the course discussion board. For the discussion board activity for this lecture, you need to write a research question from a conflict you have observed or have direct access to managing, and you critique the questions developed by at least 3 other peers using the criteria of the question being interesting, meaningful, and answerable.